Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel in the first place. Today we have our 5K special, and I know I'm like really late in actually getting this out, but I kind of didn't have a chance because I've been grounded for a while. Either way, let's just get into it. Important information will be at the end. Mina Ashido. Mina eagerly grabbed the bag, seeing how it was her idea to play this game. She was excited to finally get her turn. She shipped basically everyone together, and was practically a hopeless romantic. She pulled out a paper, and you had no idea that her face could get pinker. She steadily turned her head to you and smiled, sending butterflies crashing into your stomach. She waved the paper at you. "Get in there, listener!" Right as Mina shut the door, she grabbed your hands and kissed you lightly. It was so sudden you jumped, hitting your back against the wall. "I'm so sorry, I got really excited." Her face flushed, and she rubbed the back of her neck. You stood there, flustered out of your mind. "You just kissed me?" Do you want me to do it again?" "No, I mean, you like me like that?" Mina's face went from an adorable smile to a frown. She sighed and closed her eyes. "You haven't noticed my flirting?" It was your turn to become embarrassed. "What? Oh, I thought you were just being, you." You paused. "You were flirting?" Her smile returned and she giggled. "I have been for the past few months, thanks, listener." You grinned awkwardly and apologetically. There was a pause where Mina just stared at you and you stared at her, like the two of you were trying to get the courage to speak up. You sighed, giving in and opening your mouth to speak so you could ask her to kiss you again, but she seemed to have read your mind because her lips were on yours seconds later. You wrapped your arms around her waist and pulled her closer, feeling her smiling like an idiot against your lips. She brought her arms up around your neck and the two of you kissed for a few minutes before separating, spending the last minute staring into each other's eyes. "Is this why you suggested 7 minutes in heaven?" you whispered, your eyes half closed. "Yeah, did you not see me directly looking at you as I said so?" Mina asked, seemingly only asking the question to make you further embarrassed. "Well, yes, but no, seeing, not really looking." She laughed and sighed as the door opened. Her arms were still around you when Sarah had opened the door. He froze, just as confused as you about the fact that Mina was still standing there with her arms around you. "Mina, you gotta get out now." Sarah stood there like a deer in headlights. You could see that Kaminare's yellow fluff peeking above Sarah's arm, and Minetta's stupid purple ball things under his arms, trying to figure out why no one had walked out yet. "Go find another closet, Scotch tape. This one's mine." Mina drunkenly smiled. "What did you give her?" you yelled at Sarah. "I gave her apple juice." Sarah shrugged and then shut the closet door. Minetta yelped because Sarah had hit his nose with the door, supposedly on accident. Shoto Todoroki. Todoroki pulled out a piece of paper from the bag, his face almost not changing when he saw the name. He blinked, his eyes scanning the room before he saw you. "Listener, I got you," he said nonchalantly, setting the bag aside and standing up. You had never seen him in any other clothing beside the school uniform and his hero outfit. God, he looked good. You shook your red face and made a beeline for the closet, the doors closing milliseconds after you entered and hitting your heels. Mina seemed a bit too excited. Todoroki looked at you, blinking again. You smiled awkwardly, showing your teeth, then mentally slapping yourself when he looked away. You rubbed the back of your head, trying desperately to keep the redness of your cheeks to a minimum. "This is kinda weird." You exhaled an anxious laugh. Todoroki looked back up and then took a step back. "I'm sorry, am I too close?" The tips of your ears went pink and you shook your hands at him, your shoulders hunching up. "No, I mean, it's not like I want you closer, but, no, you're fine. I meant, like, the distance, it's fine." You gave him a grin full of teeth, hoping you didn't look like a ghost. "Somebody teach me how to speak," you thought hopelessly. Todoroki blinked at you and then smiled softly, sending an arrow through your heart. He opened his mouth but closed it and looked away, hiding his left side from you. You wanted to ask him what he was going to say, but decided against it. "What are we supposed to do?" Todoroki asked. "Whatever, I guess, but Mina probably wants us to kiss." You stopped yourself, your eyes widening and your face reddening beyond a tomato. "What? Why would Mina want us to kiss? That's kinda strange." He furrowed his brows together in thought. You laughed, exhaling. "You're amazing." You internally groaned, demanding yourself to stop speaking. Todoroki turned his whole face towards you. You couldn't exactly tell in the dark, but his cheeks seemed to be dusted with a light pink. "Thanks, listener." You're welcome. I mean, just speaking my mind, it's not like I think that every day, or that would be weird, right? Your arms were glued helplessly to your side as your brain fumbled for more words, trying to find eggs on Easter. I think you're amazing every day, he responded. Your skin prickled and your whole neck felt warm. Geez, your heart rate was probably off the charts at this point. Curse these stupid emotions. Before you could say something again, Todoroki leaned down and kissed you gently. You gasped against his mouth, but he kissed him back without hesitation. It was light and hesitant. He seemed scared of rejection, even after you had started kissing back. Your hands clenched around your own shirt, and you stood on your toes that way you could reach his lips. The kiss only lasted a few seconds, but you were already out of breath. When you pulled away, your eyes were still closed. You opened them and saw Todoroki looking at you as he looked like an angel. Your brain was practically hitting its head against a wall, and your stomach shook. Then he kissed you again, longer and more sure of himself this time. Your hands lifted and rested on his chest. He took a hesitant step towards you, and your skin itched to get closer to him. Then Mina opened the goddamn door. You'd almost forgotten that other people had existed. You jumped, but Todoroki's hands were still on your hips, and yours were still on his chest. He had a late response, backing away only after Mina's hardcore shipping brain processed the situation. Oh my god, it happened! It happened! Mina's voice went beyond high pitch at the end of her sentence, and she lashed around. Where are my $10, Pikachu? Your mouth was agape. You placed a bet on me and Todoroki kissing? She didn't respond, but you knew she had heard your question. Mina, I know you heard my question. Why won't you answer me? You yelled, walking out of the closet. Todoroki just left standing there. Ajiro Kirishima. You put your hand in the bag, honestly not caring and really wanting to go home. You only came because your Araka was worried about you. You pulled out the paper and immediately regretted coming to this stupid party. Kirishima. You stuffed the paper back into the bag as you stood and made a beeline for the closet. You saw Kirishima's face brighten and decided to ignore it. You kept your eyes at your feet while Kirishima closed the door. So, have you been enjoying the party so far, listener? He smiled and looked at you. Sort of. That's good, at least you aren't trying to set things on fire. He laughed, his voice full of optimism and sunshine. He was practically lighting up the dark closet. It made you just want to protect him from anything and everything. You sometimes wondered how he could even deal with Bakugo, but if anyone could handle him, it was the over-optimistic kid. How are you? You asked, suddenly feeling your face heat up at the question. Apparently, your emotions couldn't even handle striking up a conversation with Kirishima. Good, it's nice to get a 7-minute break from queuing explosion order. You laughed. And spend it with me? Yes, Kirishima said quietly, catching you off guard and making you jump. I mean, of course he would say that. He is the nicest and most angelic student in the classroom, but for some reason, it got your hopes up for a couple seconds. It was quiet for an unknown amount of time, the air thick with awkwardness and silence. You were sure that the time was going to be up in a matter of seconds. You accidentally made eye contact with Kirishima and didn't have any time to let words out of your mouth before he quickly pecked your lips. You stood there, mouth agape and staring at him. Milliseconds after he kissed you, the door opened. He rushed out while you slowly walked back to your Araka. Anything happen? She asked. No, you said quietly, as you heard 2 more people enter the closet. You touched your mouth with your fingertips, lost in thought. Then you looked up at Kirishima, who was staring at you with a red face. Nothing, huh? Your Araka whispered, making you jump and yell at her to shut up with an embarrassed face. My turn to spin, he said hesitantly, grabbing the bottle. I hope this will be fun, you thought with a smirk, giving the bottle a spin. As it began to slow down, you got more and more anxious, but excited at the same time. At least I know I'm not having a turn with the hot-headed kid from earlier, you thought. The bottle stopping. It landed on a blonde-haired boy with sharp small eyes and a muscular tail sitting on the floor behind him. He seems nice, you thought, giving him a shy but friendly smile. He looked away, not reacting much. The 2 of you got up, walking out the class and into the hall, along with Ishido. Okay, have fun, she said, pushing you 2 into a small room. His tail took up a fair amount of the space, but you didn't really mind. You sat down, putting your hands on your lap, not sure what to do for the 7 minutes that both of you have in the closet. What do people usually do in this situation? He spoke up, looking at you. Well, I'm not really sure. I've never really played this before, you said, averting your gaze. He sighed, looking around the room. I guess we're at the same level then. After a couple of minutes, which felt way too long, he spoke to you again. You seem nervous. Is it me? He asked you. For a second you weren't sure how to answer. No, it's just... well, a little, I guess. I mean, I don't... Do you think this is a bit awkward, too? He sighed. Yeah, I guess so. I've never really done something like this before. You thought for a while, finally getting up. You looked towards the door. I don't really think we have that much time left, you said, sighing. Guess it wasn't so interesting then. You could hear footsteps behind you, Ojiro's to be exact. He took a quiet, deep breath and then brushed the hair away from your neck, planting a small kiss. You jumped, turning around. Denki Kaminari. As the bag came around to Kaminari, he practically snatched it from Shinsou's hand, who gave him a look and then made eye contact with you. You shrugged, watching Kaminari pull from the bag with his tongue poking out from excitement. Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Shinsou cross his fingers and close his eyes and mouth, Mineta, Mineta, Mineta. You scoffed and tried not to burst out laughing, but then you felt a tingle run down your arms. You looked at Kaminari, his eyes were on you. You blinked and watched him as he cleared his throat and tried to will himself not to blush. You got me, huh? You asked. Yep, into the dark depths we go. Seconds later, you were pushed up against Kaminari. It's not like the closet was small or anything. Momo had disturbingly huge closets in her house. It's just that Kaminari was hugging you, like, really tight and warm and nice. You were extremely comfortable with his head on your shoulder, but you were not about to admit that. You were so content with the situation and his arms around you that you had no idea what you should say, or if you should say anything at all. I mean, I'd love to hear your beautiful voice, but I'd rather see you stay quiet and kiss me. That's perfectly fine too, Kaminari mumbled. You jumped, your face flushing red at his words and the feel of his breath. This caused you to go silent, your arms uselessly hanging in the air. You stiffened when Kaminari raised his head, loosening his arms from around you. Should I take that as a yes to the kissing? He looked you in the eye. You blinked, unable to move or speak. This situation was a complete shocker, no pun intended, but you had always thought that Kaminari was just joking around with his flirting. But now in the closet, in the dark, his words had never been so enticing. But his expression immediately changed when you were silent for so long. His arms fell from around you, his face fell, and his shoulders dropped. I'm sorry, listener, I came off too strong, didn't I? I was thinking... You grabbed his face and looked in his eyes, watching him blink for a few seconds of confusion while you tried to find the courage to kiss him. When your lips touched his, you felt an almost wave of electricity course through your body. Your stomach exploded like firecrackers, and your skin tingled when his fingers touched it. You held onto his face and kissed him, heaving for breath in between kisses. The time of intimacy was too short, because soon after, Mina had opened the door, congratulating Kaminari as the two of you walked out. You took too long hugging me, you whispered to him, making him huff and poke his bottom lip out. When you both sat down, this time next to each other, Shinsou rested his head on his chin and raised his eyebrows at Kaminari. So what happened in there, Pika? Ow! Shinsou jumped back, his hand reaching to clutch the back of his head. What was that for? Payback! Izuku Midoriya. As the rest agreed on 7 minutes in heaven, Yaoyorozu handed Midoriya a bag full of names of everyone that was there. He looked surprised at first, frozen, and wouldn't take it until Yaoyorozu shook it impatiently, whispering at him to take it. He jumped and scrambled to grab it, apologizing. You chuckled, smiling at him. Midoriya dug his hand into the bag, his face unimaginably red, even though he hadn't even pulled out a name yet. He was taking a while, seemingly scared for the name he would pick. He kept glancing at you, blushing profusely when eye contact was made. Damn it, Deku! Pull out a name already, you chicken! Bakugo shouted, scaring Midoriya and causing him to yelp. He pulled out a name quickly and immediately covered his face when he read it. The paper fell to the floor. Bakugo grabbed the piece of paper and looked up at you. Your stomach dropped. You're up, listener. He tossed the paper back into the bag. Your face flushed, but you stood there and awkwardly sauntered over to the closet. You heard Midoriya being pushed to a stand and could sense him behind you. When the closet door closed, you and Midoriya were engulfed in silence. So, you sighed, Midoriya rubbing the back of his neck, unsure of how to move. Yaoyorozu had a large closet, so it wasn't like you two were smushed together, but it still felt like you had been closer to him than you ever were before. We can just wait, he said quietly. Huh? You looked up at him, making eye contact, causing the tips of his ears to flush red. We can just sit and wait for the time to end. Oh, okay. You nodded, biting your bottom lip. You felt a bit disappointed, stuck alone in a closet with Izuku Midoriya. And this was it. Standing in complete silence. You knew he liked you. He wasn't very good at hiding it, but he wasn't very good at showing it when the time was right. There were maybe 2 more minutes of silence before someone who sounded like Kaminari yelled, "Why don't you guys kiss already, man?" Followed by the sound of the back of his head getting smacked. There was shuffling and then a thud as Kaminari attempted to hit the person back, but fell instead. Now, Midoriya's face was red, and yours was too. "You know what?" you inhaled. "What?" He looked up. "Fuck it." You grabbed his face and kissed him. His eyes widened in shock, but it only took mere seconds before he kissed you back, his body relaxing. For the next 4 minutes, you and Midoriya exchanged kisses. He would laugh into the kiss. He thought it was funny that he was kissing you in a closet, let alone for the first time. "Time's up," Yaoyorozu called. You and Midoriya stood up, pushing open the door and walking out of the closet. "What was so funny that was going on in there, huh?" Kaminari wiggled his eyebrows suggestively at Midoriya, and Midoriya turned his head away quickly, embarrassed. Kaminari opened up his mouth to speak, but again Shinsou smacked the back of his head. "Ow, why do you keep smacking me, man?" Kaminari covered his head with his hands and leaned away from Shinsou. "Because I enjoy it and I have an excuse," he replied with a shit-eating grin on his face. Hitoshi Shinsou. The glass bottle slowed to a stop, and you looked up to see who it was pointed at, a blush spreading across your cheeks. Oh no, it was Shinsou. The boy's eyes drifted over to you without moving his head, narrowing slightly at your wide eyes. The girls cooed at the decision as Ishido pulled you up by your ears, making you whine. "Sensitive! Ow! Nina!" "Sorry!" She let go of your ears, but was already grabbing you again, now by the shoulders as she pushed you towards the door. The other girls decided to take on Shinsou, as the boys were a bit weary, not wanting to get caught in a fight. The purple-haired boy groaned as they tugged him along, using all their strength to finally shove him inside the dark closet. Ishido pushed you in after him and smirked when she saw Shinsou catch you in his arms, slamming the closet door shut and then locking it. You opened your eyes as a blush ran across your cheeks, feeling his chest against your hands before pushing away, apologizing for tripping on him. "I'm sorry." "It's fine." He held on to you for a moment, hesitant to let you go, but finally released his grasp when you tried to step back. The darkness was intimidating, and Shinsou's intimidating aura only made it worse. You played with your hands and kept opening your mouth to start a conversation, but fear overtook you each time. Shinsou finally sighed and leaned against the back wall, folding his arms. "Are you gonna say anything, or are you just gonna stand there?" You tensed up and blushed, embarrassingly, glaring over at the voice. I was gonna say something." "Then say it." You could hear the smirk on his face appeared as you blushed harder, your ears falling to the sides of your head. He always enjoyed teasing you, and he loved seeing how embarrassed he could get you. "Well, did you have fun tonight? I'm glad you decided to come to the party." You heard him exhale deeply and then a quiet shuffle, like he was readjusting his position. When he spoke, the voice was lower, as if he were sitting down. "I am having fun. Yes. What about you?" "Oh, yes." Your heart stopped as you felt your arms fall to your side weakly. "Wait, Shinsou was using his quirk on you?" He chuckled and you slowly walked forwards in the darkness, unable to control your body. Shinsou's hands had come out of the dark and wrapped around your body, pulling you into his lap. He hummed a bit and then got comfortable before releasing his quirk, making you gasp and hit against his chest. "Why would you do that? You could have just asked me." "Would you have done it if I asked?" You went to respond, but then quickly slapped your hands over your mouth, worried he was going to use his quirk again. He laughed and played with your hair, his fingers brushing through it. "I won't use it again, I promise. I just figured we might as well get more comfortable." He was right. If you were honest, it was comfortable. He had been training for a long time, and you admired him for the work he was pushing himself through. It had paid off. You had always tried to force yourself not to stare when you'd see him walking through the halls or sitting near you in class. You hummed quietly and leaned against his chest, your ears flopping over his shoulder. Shinsou was shocked, another smirk appearing on his face as you melted into his arms. He held you tightly, and you sat there in silence for a minute, enjoying each other's company before you spoke. "How do you feel right now, listener?" Shinsou, using your first name, made you inhale sharply in surprise, tensing up and gripping onto his sweater. I feel fine, Shinsou." "Just fine?" You whined quietly, not sure how he wanted you to answer. And he could tell. He sighed again, pulling your chin closer as soon as he found it. Your face was burning with a blush, and he gently kissed you, pecking at your cheeks before moving to your lips. You weren't sure if it was the heat of the moment or your true feelings coming out, but you quickly latched onto Shinsou, kissing him deeply. He let go of you for a moment, taken aback by the sudden confidence, but then smiled and let you continue. You had stayed in that position for a few minutes, kissing on and off, until Mina came in with her phone recording and decided to squeal and interrupt you all. You quickly stood up, chasing after her, trying to get her to delete the photo from her phone. Yet, to no avail, you had been chasing her for at least 5 minutes. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm really sorry. I know on the Discord server that I said this would probably be like 8 to 9 characters. I miscounted and it was 7, and then I didn't like one of them, so I took that one out. But I also said it was going to be posted at 7. Turns out, things exporting don't always work. So yeah, either way, I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, or whatever. Thank you again so much for 5,000 subscribers. I really appreciate it, and goodbye!